wasted nights, you piss them all away. Little children in the street, dying every day. We all look for something we can never find, and we all need peace of mind. Lonely wretch on the street, looking for love. $20 beneath the sheets. Is this all she thinks of? We all look for something.
Three, two, one.
Hey, Timmy, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, pretty good. Hey, we're 3 weeks away from Christmas, Sean. Can't believe
Yeah.
how fast it's coming up on us. And here we got another show, good show tonight. Here we are on December.
I always said the
4.
older you get, the faster it goes. Tim, you look like you ate a lot of turkey. How you doing, all right?
Pretty
Just
good.
talk-
Hey, I'm going to take the famous quote from Johnny Morse, who says, "The more you drink, the better I sound." He's right.
Yeah, he certainly is. Johnny's been right a lot. Hey, so
Yeah.
listen, I gotta ask you a question. Did you get a flyer from John McDonald? in the mail?
Actually, it's a newsletter that he put out. It's, front and back. Pretty, basically, I think 25 question questionnaire.
Yeah, it's quite the questionnaire. Let me
Not
see if I
everybody
can-
got him, though.
So if you're, John's in the 108th.
Yeah.
So if you're in the 108th, and I think we're all in the 108th in Cohoes, you would have got a flyer, which is really what they call a legislative session constituent survey.
Mm-hmm.
So they put them out every year. And really what they are, Timmy, is they're just a way to find out how many times they can get the strong left liberal group of people to answer these questions, so that most people like us who just throw it on the table, who ain't answering the questions, they can say, hey, see, look at all the people that wanted these left crazy liberal policies, right?
And also, they prefix with no postage necessary too. So you fill it out, stick it in your mailbox.
Yeah,
Postage paid.
Or you go online. But
Yeah.
it really is. Listen, it isn't John McDonald sending it out; it's the assembly, right?
Yeah,
John
yeah.
so it's not just from John McDonald. So I
Right,
don't want to make
right.
it sound like this is John McDonald's.
Yeah, not
agenda.
everybody. I know John Large is saying he didn't get one, so
It's coming, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Unless unless you're on the naughty list.
yeah, right. And we're 3 weeks away from Christmas, so I know I'm on a naughty list.
Yeah, you certainly are. You ain't going to get one.
But
of those
I got
Christmas
one
cards.
from John McDonald or the assembly, so I guess I'm not too naughty.
Let me just jump into this for a minute, because it just, first of all, let me rewind, because
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago, we had John on the show, Liz Joy on the show. We were talking about Proposition 1, right?
Yeah.
And if you remember what I said Proposition 1 is one of two things, because propositions are used for one of two things, right? One of it is to get a feel, to kind of get a feel about something that you want to do. And it's very liberal in New York State, right? So it's a very liberal policy. We know Proposition 1, at least from what I take, it is a very liberal and it's a very dangerous proposition, which is now part of our Constitution. And, and John McDonald came on and he articulated very well what he believed it was. And, it's okay. Everybody's going to have their own opinion, right? But the reality is this: Proposition 1, they put these things out there and say, okay, now we have a feel of how far we can push the agenda with the liberals in the state of New York. Or number 2, they've already had a feel, they already know what's going on, and it's something really easy, and they're going to push it through with a proposition because it's not really that that crazy. This time around, I think they wanted to put it out there to see what the crazy liberals will do. And B, I think they were probably surprised that a million people, more than a million people, voted for it than against it.
Yeah, because
And
they labeled it as equality rights. Everything's equal. We're all equal.
yeah, we're all equal. And
That's
I
what.
was watching the news this morning. And I said, son of a bitch, I wish everybody was watching the news, because guess what's happening? There is a case going in front of the Supreme Court of the United States. And you know what the issue is? Whether young people can get surgery or take puberty blockers, right?
Yes.
And the reason it's in front of the United States highest court is because they're making the argument that it is a constitutional right.
right
The
for you
same,
to for you as a parent to permit your child to be mutilated.
no, yeah, but the constitutional right was the
Right.
organization sued and said just because they're 12 years old,
Yep.
you can't discriminate because of age.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did we argue about Proposition 1? What did they put in the New York State Constitution? You can't discriminate because age.
Right,
We asked
age.
John if he thought that that had anything to do with, having some kind of surgery to change your gender, and he didn't believe that it did. Yet
Yeah.
now we have
Here's
Liz
before the
Joy
Supreme
on.
Court. Yeah.
Well, Liz Joy said, bet your ass it does.
Yeah.
And now we have this United States Supreme Court going to argue the same case on the same premise under the same exact language.
And that
which
happened
is-
today.
It happened today that they were arguing it, right?
Yeah.
So,
So they're trying to normalize. Basically, you got, the liberals or whoever you want to call these people are trying to normalize it. And actually, Sean, I believe, they get these kids to believe what they're being told by their parents and everybody else. Okay. And it's
Yeah.
happening in the schools and everywhere else. I can't believe a 5 or 6 year old is educated enough to be able to say I'm a girl, but I want to be a boy, and vice versa. And that's really what the gist of this whole thing is. But they want to medically change their bodies.
yeah. And we've talked about it till I want to puke, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to bring it up because there are many people that hit me up and they basically said to me, they said to me, Sean, oh, that's bullshit. That's not going to happen. That's not what it is. These were liberal people, right?
Yeah.
Some of them had, they were inquisitive, wanted to have an argument about, or debate, I should say, as to what I thought, what they thought, where's the truth fall. If you listen and you watch the show, now you know that the United States Supreme Court has taken up the case because of an organization that filed a lawsuit saying that you can't discriminate against age because it's in the Constitution. Now it's in the New York State Constitution, and watch the bullshit that happens in the state. So now we know that the proposition passed. We are so far left that we can't get out of our own way
We're
in
as
this
bad
state.
as California.
Yeah, well, we're going to get worse because now let me talk about this right here. This
Yep.
is the flyer that John sent out. And it's not his opinion. It is what the legislature plans on having as part of their agenda. So they've already set aside all of these issues as part of their agenda. And now they just want to say, oh, well, we asked the people. Let me just tell you a couple of them. And if you don't think this, I'd like to hear your opinions, people, via this show, email,
Chat,
Facebook.
use our chat box here.
Yeah,
We can
the
read
chat
them
box.
off.
I don't give a shit how you do it, but I'm not going to read them all because there's about 27 of them or 25 of them.
Yeah. We'll just take them, some of the things that just strike right out, which, off air, we took a note of some of them.
Yeah, there's a bill that is referred to as the fair and time parole.
Right.
Fair and time parole. And what does that mean? It would require the parole board to release people to the community supervision once they reach their minimum prison sentence. So if you got 50, let's say a smaller number, let's say you got 3 to 5.
Right.
As soon as you hit 3 years, they want to let you out on parole. They don't want the 5. So they want to take whatever that number is. If you got 5 to 15 because you had manslaughter, Forget about 15. They want you to get out in 5 and be put on probation or parole
Yeah,
or
something
whatever.
like that. Yeah,
Right.
basically,
Which is just another far left liberal bullshit thing. California's doing it. How they making out, Timmy? How's California doing?
look at it.
It's a shithole.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
It's like you go out in California, you better, in New York City and everywhere else too, you better strap
Yeah.
on a freak, whether if you have a gun, you better carry your own gun. If not,
Yeah,
you
and
better
they-
carry a stick.
Right.
You better do
Yeah.
something.
And look at that. I think it also talks about the age of reaching 55 years old, right?
So that's a whole nother one, right? So
Yeah.
there's a second
Talk about it.
So there's a second piece of legislation that basically says that here's how they phrase the bullshit.
Yeah,
Here's
right.
how they phrase it. There are groups who are advocating for legislation known as elder parole.
Right.
Elder parole. If you
Right.
get 15 to life, you should be very elder before
Right.
you can ever get out. And it
Right.
should be in a box, right?
So once you're 55 years old,
So they
you
say
get a get out of jail for free card.
it says once you're 55 and you've completed 15 years of your,
Right. 15 years of your sentence.
you could get out of prison because
So
now
that means
you're
if
old.
you're 40 years old and you're sentenced to 30 years in prison for murder or rape or something like that, you do 15 years and
You're out.
then you get out of jail.
Well, why do we even have
Right.
life?
But if you're
Why do we-
right, but if you're say if you do this at 20 years, you still can't be eligible until you get to 55.
At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because
Yeah.
what they're trying to do is what they've already done: destroy New York State and put people's lives in danger
Mm-hmm.
by flooding our streets with people who were murderers,
Yep.
rapists. Just think, you don't get 15 to life, 25 to life because you stole a steak out of Price Chopper, right? You murdered somebody, you raped a little child, you strangled,
Yep.
a young girl. You did some kind of monstrous,
Heinous thing.
Yes, these are moral turpitude issues
Right.
that just go to the core of a human
Right. And
being,
if you're over 40 years old, Sean, the maximum you're going to maybe see is 15 years in
Right.
jail. And,
And I
then when you hit
imagine-
55, you get a chance to get out.
And I imagine, because it doesn't say it, but I have to imagine that they will use this to retroactive and look at everybody who's in the state prisons now.
Well,
and
with
say,
Proposition 1 equality, they might.
well, so if you live in New York State, ask yourself, are we not already a state that's so far left that you can't even live here? The crime is
Yeah.
running rampant. The taxes run rampant. The school system's failing many of our
Yep.
children. It's not teachers. It's not the students. A lot of it has to do with these crazy laws by this state legislature. They want also to be
It's a
able
government.
to know, if you are a assembly member, I want you to hear this clearly, right?
Mhm.
If you are an assembly member, you have to run for office every 2 years.
That's right.
And that's because they want the assembly, who's supposed to be closest to the people, to be held accountable. If you're not doing a good job, they don't want you staying there for 4 years or 6 years, like they do with the Senate, right? The
Right,
state
right.
Senate, the Senate of the United States, the
It's
Congress.
6.
2
And
years.
then Congress is 2 years.
That's right. 2 years, 6 years. The assembly, who just a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years, passed a bill in the dark of the night, right around Christmas, while everybody was struggling
We're
to figure out
big. Yep.
how to pay their bills and go Christmas shopping. They snuck in and gave themselves like a $25,000 raise.
Right. They did.
Made them the highest paid legislature in the freaking world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the most dysfunctional is asking you to trust them while they're stealing your money, taking raises that they certainly didn't deserve, and
And
they
they're part time.
and they're part-time, and they use this little lie, and I'm going to call it a lie because I think we caught it when we had the assemblyman on. Maybe he wasn't feeling that it was a lie, and I don't think he was lying to us, but I think when they put this package together, what they basically said is, if you're going to be in the assembly, you can't have outside income. So if
Yeah,
you're a
they
lawyer,
did say that. Yeah.
right. So if you're a lawyer making $400,000 a year and you decide that you want to be an assembly member, you're going to make $125,000 now, highest in the country, but you can't make the $400,000.
Right.
Now, listen, I'm not stupid. You're not stupid. Nobody's stupid to think that anybody's going to give up 400,000 to make 125. I'm the only asshole that gave up 27,000 to be the mayor of a city, Cohoes.
Yeah.
But most people wouldn't do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was how they structured this thing. How ironic
Mm-hmm.
that the way it ended up was that the Republicans sued and said that's unconstitutional. And so now in the meantime, while it's held up in court for the next 20 years, they're making 125.
Yeah.
Plus they can make all the outside income that they want.
Yep.
So they
Yep.
lie to you constantly. So
Yeah.
when you read this stuff that is so vague, 55 and you get out of jail because you're old,
Yeah,
even if you're a
because
murderer or rapist,
Right.
early
you're not even
parole.
old enough at 55 to collect Social Security, for Christ's
Right.
sake.
Early
They're going to let you
parole.
back out after you murder somebody.
Early parole for your minimum sentence. The assembly now wants you to let them run every 4 years instead
Yep.
of
So
every
they
2.
double their term. That gives
They-
them twice as much time to give themselves pay raises.
And it gives them $300,000 more in monies, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And benefits and health care and state retirement. These
Yeah.
guys get state retirement. John
Yeah.
McDonnell was the mayor of the city of Cohoes for a very long time.
Yeah.
He then goes and be his assemblyman, right?
Yeah.
He's right now probably got an $80,000 a year pension for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was a firefighter, put my life on the line, and my pension's nowhere near $80,000. That's how this whole process works. It's about them. It's not about anybody else. Let me
Yeah.
just go on to a couple more. How about this one, right? We
Yeah.
talked about this. Again, if you go back to Proposition 1, every one of those things that were in Proposition 1 seem to connect themselves to one of these legislative agendas, right?
Yep.
Because now they feel like, oh, this will pass because they passed Proposition 1, and we'll just say, oh, it's the same thing. But now
Yeah.
they want migrants to come to the state of New York and be given a right to work permit. Okay.
Right.
So you illegally
They're
break into the-
non-citizens. Yeah.
You're non-citizens. You come to this country illegally. You're not vetted. Nobody knows what you are, who you are, and what you're capable of doing.
If you're
But we
bringing
wanna
in any
give you-
disease, all that stuff, right?
we want to give you a chance to work here. To me,
Yeah.
that's just unfair at every level. But they also want to give them an individual tax identification number. You know what that
Yeah.
is? That
Yeah,
means
it's
if you want,
equivalent to a business tax.
It is a-
yeah,
that's exactly what it is. They can open up their own
business.
business
yeah,
under the state of New York because they have their own tax identification number.
right.
Now we
So-
want to let murderers out of jail. We want to let illegals come in and work in our state.
Open
And,
up a business with a TIN, which is basically like a social security number or something along the line, which allows you, to operate a business and be able to collect and pay. I think you pay tax as part of the business, say if you're doing things or you're wholesale, something
Well,
along those lines.
They're going to use the bullshit. Oh, they're going to pay
Yeah.
taxes. That's
Yeah.
just bullshit, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
bottom line is nobody who comes in this country illegally should be able to do anything in this country legally, whether it's temporary or not temporary.
Yeah.
It's just, again, if people are watching this show don't see how far left New York is going, it's going to go over the cliff and you're going to go
Yeah.
right with it. Again, I'm a Democrat, but I'm
Yeah.
not going so far left that I can support these kind of propositions and these kind of laws.
Yeah.
And so the reality is I don't know if I am a Democrat no more because
And
I don't
look
even
at-
know what the hell I stand for.
Right. And they also want to. They also are recommending term limits for themselves after 4 years too. If I don't think we mentioned that, but
No, they're not. They're
But
not
yeah-
asking. I don't believe
they're suggesting it. But I think it's
No,
just
they're
bullshit.
asking
It's-
you if you think there
yeah,
should
we think. Yeah. Well,
That's just- you
everybody
gotta
will
throw a
probably
bone in.
answer yes to that.
Well, no, they won't, Timmy, because I'm going to tell you exactly what happens. The people who are part of this far left agenda, they fill this thing out, and everybody else throws it on the table, and they don't
Yeah,
fill it out.
which is true.
And again, it's just a dog and pony show. And none of this really matters. This is how you pander to people. This is how you say, geez, we asked everybody and nobody responded. So we had to make the decision. You know how it is.
Yeah,
This is
yep.
predetermined stuff. And they use you like a fool to make you feel like you have a value, only to find
like,
out that you
like
don't
our
mean
voices
shit.
matter.
That's right. That's right. They
Somebody
also
sat
want-
down and wrote down all 25 of these things.
Well, yeah, they're making $125,000 a year
And
to
the
do
election was
nothing.
on November 5. That's when
They have staff
and
that
this
does.
thing gets out to us. What is it? December 3. So they had this thing all prepared, printed, and ready to go within less than a month.
Yeah. Well, and then
Anyway,
they also slip in there the bullshit that you've seen the president try to do, which is to eliminate debt for student loans.
yeah, yeah,
I'm all for it. As long as you go back to when I had my student loan 30 years ago, when I paid $35,000 to go to college when I was
yeah,
30 years old and working two jobs and paid it for 15 years.
yeah,
Okay. If you're going to go back and pay everybody since the beginning of college, I'm
yeah.
for it. If you're going to just do it now so you can, try to,
Get votes.
put a
Yeah,
stake in with all these new voters so that they go, oh, how great we are. We'll never vote you out of office. I'm
yeah,
not for it at all. And
yes,
again, there's too many people. Too many people. If
yep,
you're a low income person, most of us, I was a low income person. I had TAP, I had Pell, and I had small loans. But
yeah,
then what happened was I was 35 years old. I was a firefighter. I worked for a union. I wanted to go to college to better myself. And it cost me almost 50 grand.
yeah. And you have to
And I
pay
took
that
a
off,
loan out and it
right?
cost me a 15-year loan.
Mm-hmm.
Are they paying me back? Are they paying you back? Anybody else
No,
who took loans out, that already paid them back, getting any
yeah,
money? No, it's bullshit.
yeah.
So
I think
these are
that'll.
just a
Yeah,
few of the other things. There's a couple other that I may agree with. There's one that says, can you have assisted suicide? I don't know. You can have abortion in New York State all the way up to the 9-month term of a baby, and you got to get permission now to kill yourself. If
yeah.
you're rotting away somewhere on a log, laying in the bed, and you're just a
Yeah,
vegetable,
yeah, you can't
I
you
need
can't
these
put the
people to.
noose around your neck yourself. You
Yeah,
get
yeah,
somebody else to do it for you. Here,
yes,
push me over the side of the bed, please.
yeah. So now I got to get permission from that. But what happened
Yeah,
to it's your body, my body, my body, my body.
yeah,
If I don't
yeah.
want to live no more because I'm sick, who the hell are these people to make that determination? It
Right.
should be it should be, what did they want to say? Constitutional right to have abortion. It should
Yeah,
be a constitutional right to end my life if I'm really sick. Now I wouldn't
yeah.
do it because
Hmm.
of my religious belief, but there's people that would
Yeah. Or
because they don't
people.
believe the same and they're
Yeah. Or people.
suffering. I don't know. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that may be something that you can support,
But that
right?
question is on that survey, so they want
Yeah.
to know if you support assisted suicide is what we're calling it. I don't know what they're calling it. Are they using the word suicide?
Yeah, I thought they said end of life.
Oh, end of life. Well,
Yeah.
basically, it says it's suicide. That
Yeah.
means you could designate somebody to help croak you.
And then, of course, you can have they want to do a few other things like having a single paid health care, which is putting
Yeah,
everybody on Medicare or Medicaid or whatever. Hell,
yeah,
they one of those governmental programs. I think anything the government runs is shit. And I wouldn't want my health care to be in the hands of the state
yeah.
legislature.
I agree.
That's
Yeah,
that's for sure. And they had a couple other things that you know are really left. I guess the point is everything we read is a left liberal California policy already in play. And if you want to see how it's working, just turn on TV and you'll see how bad California is.
yeah,
So please
yeah,
take your time, maybe fill it out. Fill it out. Go online and fill it out. You can find it. I'll send it. We'll post it on Facebook. Fill it out because I don't think you want murderers out of jail just because they turn 55. I don't think you want, somebody who shot somebody to get out of jail in 5 years because they got 5 to 15. I don't think you want to see somebody else get their loans paid for while you're struggling every day just to put groceries on the table, right? I
yeah. So
mean,
what you do is if you're on the receiving end of this newsletter, this questionnaire, you're sitting there as a liberal or whatever you want to call yourself like that, and they go, "Oh, this guy here, he just answered that." Yeah, we only want stay at 2 terms. Throw that one in the trash. You know,
somewhere along the line, I promise you, there's probably
it.
is something I can't read because
Yep.
I'm blind that says that this only applies to you guys. It
Yeah.
doesn't apply to any of them
Yeah.
because there's a lot of shit that they get that you doesn't apply to them. But
Right.
there you
Right.
go, folks. There's your news flyer flash. If you want to do all those great left liberal things, then fill it out and tell them that you love letting murderers and rapists go, and you want
Right.
migrants to get jobs that
Yeah.
you don't deserve. The
And they
roof
can
of
have
your city.
businesses and TNs, and they could kill us and everything out. And if they're over 40 years old, they only do 15 years old. 15 years, they get to walk at 55, and then they probably collect Social Security when they hit 62.
Yeah, it's just it's a
It's
scam. Hey
crazy.
Tim, since we're on Cohoes, let me just jump
Oh,
over to Cohoes because I think
yeah.
this is a sad story, right?
Hmm.
Um, another bar restaurant closes.
Another one
Uh,
bites the dust.
Donnie Magoo's.
Yep.
As sad as that sounds, another one bites the dust.
Another one bites the dust.
And no matter what, I keep telling you, the city is falling apart.
It's dying.
It's
So, who'd we lose last week? Was it
so you lost table 41 last week,
table
right?
41?
I
Yep.
went and seen Bobby. I love the guy, right? He came to me when he was
Yeah.
trying to come up with an idea to have a bar, and he wanted to make his own beer, and he was really excited about
Yeah.
everything. And at the time, we we just finished Canal Square Park.
Yep.
We just finished, the music hall was open. So the city was really starting to see this, true up and coming excitement of a city that's been dead for 50 years, starting to see a little spark, right?
Yeah. We were
And
getting some bling.
we were getting some bling.
Yep.
And you had Donnie Magoo starting wanting to open. You had Smith's that was only open on the weekend, now
Mhm.
open 7 days a week. The Rock the Block was kicking ass, and there was no
Mhm.
empty storefronts. We had them all filled.
Yeah.
Bars, restaurants, businesses, you name it. We had a really unique situation where we turned the downtown into an arts and entertainment district, right?
Yeah. It
And
was moving along
Cohoes,
pretty good, actually.
right? And Cohoes became a destination. Remember that term
Yeah.
that I use,
It was all over the
destination?
newspapers, everywhere. Yeah.
That's right. Cohoes was becoming a destination. And we seen 28,000 people the first year go into the music hall that was closed and really dead for many years, right? We seen Rock the Block bring in about 12,000 people. So for the first year, we had over 40,000 people visiting one street throughout the whole
Yeah.
entire year. It was packed. We were
Yeah.
talking about parking garages. We had no parking.
Yeah.
But
And you would even see that flow right on up where people wanted to go on up and take a look at the Cohoes Falls.
it
So,
was
so
the
it was,
city.
I mean, it extended well beyond Remsen.
Yeah, the city was booming. I always
It
said there's a
was.
nucleus, which is your downtown, and the
Yeah.
tentacles spread everywhere else. But so you lost, you lost Donnie's.
BI Brown. Yep. Now Magoo's is gone.
Bai moved off of downtown, so that's not really a spot for the walkable downtown that we were
Yep.
building.
Yep.
You had, you have Table 41 and Bobby saying, "Hey, I can't make it because there's no people no more. Let me
Yeah.
make something." What the hell happened? Timmy, you there?
Hey, you put your hand up and then you
No, my
froze. Yeah, I'm
my
here.
camera froze. So let me make something perfectly clear. It is up to a business to run its business, right?
Yeah, it
It
is.
isn't up to the city to run a business. It isn't up to the city to make sure their hamburgers taste good, their beer's ice cold, they make great cocktails. That's not the job of the city. So don't get me wrong when I say that the city has failed our businesses, because the city has a role that may be more important than how good the hamburger is, right? Or how good the drink is. And that is to make sure that the city is alive and well. It's to make sure that the city is promoted at the highest level so people understand what we have, so that they draw people into the city. They have events, they have promotions, they have music halls. They go out to the public and say, this is why Cohoes is so great. When
Yep.
the city doesn't do that, and people from other parts of the capital region no longer visit the city of Cohoes,
Yep.
the bars and restaurants die a slow death.
Yeah,
Because
and Sean, I've always believed that we underutilize Canal Square. Okay, So
Well, yeah, it's
keep on
it's
going.
the,
But we do 8 concerts, and then it fizzles out to nothing.
yeah. Well,
Okay,
that's these
but
people. We
yeah,
right, but let me just continue. Right,
sure,
the moral of the story is this: if you think 7 restaurants and bars and a music hall can survive on 16,000 people in the city of Cohoes, to go out every night of the week and support them with enough money that they can flourish and prosper, you're out of your mind. You're freaking out of your mind. And you don't know what you're talking about. Because if you're not a destination, you're dead. Saratoga is a destination. They couldn't have all of that stuff up there if they didn't have the track, if they didn't have this, feel that when you go up there, you just feel good and the
yeah.
streets are
Same
cool
thing
and
with
the
Lake
bars,
George. Lake
like George, all these places.
Yeah.
Cohoes was quickly becoming, in the middle of the capital region, a destination where people were talking about, you don't have to take it from me. I know because I helped build it. But you don't have to take it from me. Times Union, that hates my guts, had to publish something, and they swallowed hard.
Oh yeah,
They had to publish
it was
that
a
Cohoes
tough.
for the first time ever was a top 3 city in the whole capital region.
Yeah, that
and
was
that we
painful
opened
for them.
Right. They had a print that we were the #1 small music venue in the capital region. They had a print that we had 5 restaurants in the top 5. They had a print that we were the safest city where people could walk the streets and feel safe. That's the job of this city. That's what my job was. My job wasn't to flip your hamburgers or pour your drinks. It was to make sure that the city was safe and clean and inviting and it was a destination. And I'm going to tell you something, Tim. 5 years ago, on a Thursday night after Rock the Block, every bar in this city and restaurant had 300-400 people packed in it.
Yeah, there was a
All
lot of
during
people.
the
Yeah.
week. Every show that we had at the music hall, we
Yeah.
had some kind of downtown boom. So if there was a show on Monday, the restaurants were packed.
Yeah.
After the show, people would walk down. You know why they'd walk down? Because there was 2 cops walking the beat at all times. There was a golf cart going up and down the street. People felt safe. They seen the cops. They said, this is great. It's a small little street. Look at all this shit that's going on. It
Yep.
was exciting.
Yeah, it was.
You know what? Today, Timmy,
Now it's
today-
depressing.
today, this is what it is.
Yep. So Donnie Magoo's is hung it up. So
Hey,
now
listen,
he's left with Anthony's, and I think that that restaurant next to it, I don't know what it's called. Maybe it's
Well, I
all
think
Anthony's.
Anthony's is doing okay, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to have some businesses do okay,
Yeah.
because they've already built up a clientele,
Yeah.
right? But for the most part, I'm going to say it, and I don't want to say it. This is just the beginning. Now, truthfully,
keep hearing that.
Daisy's across the street from Smith's, they were going to close, and Smith's bought them. Now, I don't know if it's true or not. And if I had the chance to sit down with the owner, if I can get him on the show and he'll explain stuff to us, I believe they bought it because they were really concerned about having their place open and having a bunch of closed restaurants around them. Because when everything's closing up and it's in the middle of the downtown, people go, I'm not going down there. Look at that place. That's a scary shithole full of crime and closed up buildings.
Well, also, if you recall, we had Sweet Happy Days right there, and
They went out
the
of
reason
business?
why, they went on out because of it wasn't really so much as customers, which did play a part, but it was the drug use in Canal Square and the dogs pooping all over the place. It was $10 haircuts that you can get down there. I mean, it really, really got so bad. Okay, and that they couldn't function there anymore, and that's when they decided to pull up chocks and get out.
It's just one of many. They fall like dominoes. Boom.
Yeah, and that's
boom,
yeah,
boom.
it is.
Now, Donnie's been here for quite some time now.
Yeah.
He's got a clientele.
Probably 10 years at least.
He just can't make it. And I'm afraid you're going to see that. And I don't want to be disrespectful to the people who are moving into the city,
Yeah,
but every spot that you see is either a barbershop or a beauty shop or a antique shop. And I'm going to tell you something. Maybe the people who own those businesses will make money because they have a small clientele that comes to them all the time. But that's not going to save a city. they're not the kind of businesses
Well,
that
people
are.
don't flock for those things.
That's right. They're not a destination.
You
You,
know,
may go, hey, I go down to get my
you
hair cut because
typically go on out. You're looking for food. You're looking for drink.
That's
You're
right.
looking for music.
That's right.
Okay, and you're looking for like socializing and companionship, and they don't offer those things.
No, and I hate to say it, most of those businesses end up failing too.
Yeah, and they're valuable businesses, but it's tough. It's tough.
What happens is businesses look and go, look at all the people in that city. Look at it's booming. This is a great city. And then they realize that by the time they move in and set up shop, nobody's there no more. Because Bill Keeler is a moron. Steve Napier is useless.
He is.
Steve Hennessy is useless. Because here's just a few things. The city's not safe. The city's dirty. There's no economic development. Shit shacks for $25,000 that we've knocked down and threw the wood into the garbage.
Threw all 10 shacks in the trash. Yep.
They have no understanding how to run a city and build a city.
Yep.
And it really it's really sad. And I hope Donnie does well at, look, these are not personal issues. I don't care who owns businesses. I don't care if I like them, I dislike them. I want success because I lived in this city my whole life. And as a young kid, there was some success. And for most of my life, downtown was just a shithole, dead, nothing in it. And we got it back and we got a taste. We got a feel of how a small city with 4 square miles with one main drag can come back to life and excite so many people. I remember when Donnie Magoo's opened, there was about 200 people packed in that little joint.
Yeah.
And every Friday I'd go down and there'd be people sitting in the window and I'd see them drinking and having fun. People I knew, people I worked with. It was great. I go by there now. He's closed. The place next to him's closed. The place on the other side is closed.
Yeah, empty
There's
storefronts
5 empty
everywhere.
storefronts that are just boarded up.
Yep.
And if you want to know if it breaks my heart, of course, I worked my ass off to build that stuff up.
Yeah.
I worked hard. I gave up a lot. I gave up money. I gave up time. And then I gave up my life when they kicked the shit out of me because I was unwilling to be their dodo bird.
Well, you didn't bend
I'm not
the
a
knee.
piss boy. I'm not carrying the bucket. You know. So, listen, I would tell you, go to your city council, man. Scream. Ask them what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And do me another favor. Jump over to our YouTube and subscribe. We had 50 subscribers in the last 6 weeks, and that's a lot for YouTube. That's really good. I'm really appreciative of it. And I'm really happy. And if you could jump over and join us, subscribe, like, share, we would appreciate that very much. Jean, what is that name? Brianna Jean Pierre.
And she's right. Okay.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I am not for one
We're
second.
not bashing
No.
your businesses.
I am not dismissing them business. Listen, I love some of those businesses.
Yeah.
I believe that when you have a downtown that you're trying to bring a arts, entertainment, recreational type downtown, you need to have antique shops, things for people to shop. I believe wholeheartedly that when we had all the bars and restaurants and music hall and Cohoes
they all
becomes a
feed
destination,
off each other, Sean.
Those places prosper.
Yes, they did.
Because they come in from all other areas. But I will disagree with her in a way that I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful. By no means. Those businesses are nice businesses for a community. They're nice businesses for the owners, but they don't make the city a destination. At least I don't believe it. And I've lived here my whole life, and I watched a lot of shops try to be successful that they failed because there's no foot traffic in the downtown.
Yeah, and that's what you need.
And I think if Brianna, if you were there when I was there, you know how many people were flocking the city. And I wish you well, and I hope you do fantastic. And this is no shot at you, and I think I said that from the beginning.
Yeah.
But you can't have a whole downtown full of haircuts, barbershops, beauty shops, flea markets. It's not gonna help
nail
the city
shops
grow.
And stuff like that. You need, people. These are services, but what I think moved more towards was entertainment.
Well, we wanted downtown to be a place of a destination, right?
Yeah, where you can get everything.
we had beautiful places on Ransom Street, beautiful
Yeah,
flea markets. We didn't want them to leave, but
right,
we also knew that we couldn't have 40 of them on the street, right?
right. Hmm.
Um, we just couldn't because that doesn't bring the people in that you need to be successful. If it brings in 1,000 people, well, we're still short 30,000, right?
Hmm.
And the flea market is not going to bring in 30,000 people. But a beautiful flea market with a great rock the block and a beautiful music hall and restaurants that people can eat at and then walk down to the flea market. All of those things together make a beautiful downtown. So I appreciate you're still here, and I hope that you're doing well. And I in no means at all want to discredit your hard work and the value you bring to the city. And I think you can agree with me that at one time we were booming because we had a great cohesive group of a lot. We had a music shop, a music store, right? We brought a music store in.
Hmm.
They end up being part of the plays at the music hall. They're gone. They said they didn't get no support. So I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just telling you, if you walk down the street right now, you can shoot off a bazooka and you're not going to hit anybody. And that's sad because 3 years ago, we needed a parking garage. And Frank says, Heckle and Jekyll and Peter.
Yeah, that's us.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Well,
got
but
it, brother.
we're raising valid points, okay? And you can't make we're not here to make anybody agree with you. You draw your own conclusions, is what I always say. But in my view, okay, when I go on out, I'm looking for either food or entertainment or something like that, okay. And if I have a specific need for a haircut or something like that, it would be nice if they. That's the whole purpose and concept of malls, everything in one place, right?
Yeah. Well, that's
Okay,
ridiculous.
but we don't have that here. So
Timmy, let's jump over to some of the stuff that I don't know why you're offline. I wanted your big head right there for a minute.
now I'm not. I'm
Um,
here.
yeah, let's talk a little bit about Cohoes. All
Yeah,
right, let's
some
talk
shit's
about
going on here. Okay.
some of the things that I think are really important. Let's talk about Saratoga sites
Yeah.
because I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, what they did is they put in a RFP. Okay. Uh, from contractors to basically tear down 5 acres of buildings. Okay. This was part of the mayor's big plan where it's so toxic you can't live there, but not toxic enough where you could have a business across the street selling hot dogs and people eating outside of picnic tables. And then also, um, they want to build some kind of industry there in that environment when right up the road, Mohawk Paper is closing on up their shop.
Let me ask you a
So,
question because this is the argument that I've made since I grew up in the projects,
yep,
Saratoga sites, right?
yeah,
And what happened? Did the poisonous dust just stop at the curb? It didn't cross the street
yeah,
because
because it's in a dome. It's covered by a dome,
because because the argument from these morons is that Saratoga Street projects was unsafe to live.
Yeah,
But what about all the houses across the street? What about
yeah.
all the houses up going towards the
Right.
top
It
of
doesn't.
Saratoga?
There's no dust in Maplewood.
I mean, the bottom line is that whole street is encompassed between Norlight and it's encompassed by 787, and there's
Yeah,
dust and grime and shit from all of those places, right? But
yeah,
do you really believe that it had to be shut down? I mean, the reality is Bill Keeler hated Norlight because when they blasted, it shook his $1 million house up there.
up there in
That's
Western
all. He
Avenue.
was
Yeah,
playing like a whining baby all the time. Oh, Norlight was here well before he was.
yeah,
And it employed a lot of people, Timmy, making
yeah,
$80,000, $90,000 a year. They basically shut that down. Now they shut
yep,
down the projects. Now they're going to knock the projects down. Who's going to pay for that? I'm
yeah.
interested to see if it's HUD or if
I
it's
got
the
right. I got a foil in to find out who's paying for it, and also to get my hands on the proposals.
yeah. So
So
I'm
we'll
not
see.
sure who is actually going to pay the freight for that, but
Hmm.
I will tell you that It's going to be expensive. It
Yeah.
ain't going to be cheap.
Hmm.
You know, and what are they going to put there? Now, I'm going to tell you something. I'm not afraid to share it because I told the public we had a $32 million project that would have been up to almost 40 million, but you have DPW sitting right on the river. And of course, it's the worst place in the world, right?
Right. And it's valuable riverfront
Yes.
property.
And we didn't want people living in institutional housing because we've seen a lot of problem with institutional
Hmm.
housing, fights, drugs, groups of people that are causing a lot of issues. And it's tough to live in institutional housing. I lived in it. I understand it, right? So we were going to work with HUD to go down to Main Street, Congress Street, White Street, have millions of dollars of investment into new homes where we could move the people out of Saratoga sites into these new homes that they could own. They would lease to own or rent to own.
Hmm.
And we were going to move the DPW down to the Saratoga sites. Okay.
Yeah.
But we were going to tell the truth. That was our plan. And I lived in Saratoga sites. I wanted better for the people who lived there. So we weren't going to say, oh, we're closing you down because you're unsafe. No, bullshit. We're going to finally get you out of institutional housing, get you down on these townhouses that were being built all over the city and in areas that are already depressed. And these areas would have seen the value and property of people who still live there come back to life. Maybe that's what they're doing, but why don't they just say that? Why do they got to lie about it? Why do they got to say it's unsafe?
Yeah. What I think anybody with common sense would say is, why is it just that one little development, as we already started talking about, and not the other properties on the outskirts of that? Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they do blasting, but the blasting that is done up there, okay, the vibrations travel through rock far greater, maybe 5 times greater than they do in the air. So you might hear a boom in the air, but you feel it really in the rock as sound travels better through that rock. Okay,
Well,
so that's probably what pissed off Billy Keeler, and he says, "I'm going to demolish. I'm going to shut them down no matter what it takes."
Well, he
You know?
shut down a lot of things. Mohawk
Yeah,
Paper, he's done nothing to try to help them. I talked to some people down there.
yeah.
City never even really reached out to try to work with them. So they're gone. They're going to
Hmm.
Waterford, build a big building in Waterford, and
Yeah.
Cohoes is going to lose a fortune. We raised our sewer tax by 20 cents per 100,000. I don't know if that has anything to do with the money they're losing from Mohawk Paper.
Yeah, well, they're losing $240,000,
No,
so
and
they got to
Norlight.
make it up somehow.
And
Okay,
Norlight
and
and
Norlight.
regular taxes, because once they move the businesses completely out of there, they no longer pay taxes as though it's an active business. So they'll ask for a reassessment, and they'll see a big drop because it's
Mhm.
just an abandoned building now.
Yeah,
So the city's in a lot of trouble, and slowly but surely it's just getting worse.
yeah. I'm
And
being told that by certain council members, it's getting
I
worse.
talk to council
And
members. I talk to investors.
yeah,
I talk to people that are here. I go out and have a few drinks, and there's not a time that I don't get pulled over by somebody telling me how bad it's got,
yeah,
how scared they are, how they're losing money, how they're not making
yeah,
money, and I don't know what to say to them. I feel bad for them. I really
yeah.
do. I don't
One
know what to say to them.
and look at uh, uh, while we're talking, I just wanted to jump on to one other quick topic. I don't know if you're ready for hot tips, but what's going on up at a couple issues I got from people. Basically, I was being told that they have a problem with the heating system being down at the music hall. Okay, not sure if that's been fixed yet, and heard that the elevator also isn't working.
So do
Have you
you
heard
know that?
that?
Yeah, I did, and I also don't know if you know that the music hall had a 150-year-old birthday, right?
Right, which was not celebrated. Yeah.
And which I know that the person running the music hall looked like he tried, but the city did absolutely nothing. The
Hmm.
fourth oldest active music hall in the country should have
Yes.
had 10 bands playing outside with a barbecue and
Yeah.
hot
It should have
chocolate
been
and
right.
singing Christmas carols. And same
Hmm.
thing I did when we revealed
Yeah.
the sign. Right, we had the choirs come, we had hot chocolate. There was
Yeah.
500 people out in front. Um, Then we
It
had a
should have been
show.
festive, but just like
Yes.
he doesn't even know what year the city was incorporated as a city, despite a plaque being mounted on a pole right there in the corner of City Hall. It says
Well, unfortunately,
1869.
so now you have the music hall celebrating its birthday. And what did it get for its birthday? The elevator doesn't work and there's no heat.
Right. Right.
But
And I'm seeing that he's got close to $1 million for all new windows, roofing, and all bunch of stuff. Okay, in
yeah.
grants, but now you got these other problems popping
Well,
up.
so we have the problems at the music hall, but jump into the water plant
The
because that's
big problem, okay, the big problem that people are unaware of. Okay, do you have those photos that I gave you?
you know what, Timmy. I got to be honest with you.
I'll put them on my Fifth Ward page.
I
Okay.
don't.
But basically, let's lay it on out what's really happening. The Apparently there's a pump failure, okay, which is what is happening is that the city is using a much smaller temporary pump because of the normal pump that failed. As a result, the water reservoir is at critical stage where it's down at least, to me it looks 3 feet. Okay, the whole thing is, and I did look at photos. I sent the photos to council member Higgins, who's public safety, and I says, hey Sean, what's going to happen if we have a big fire or a major water break and the water level of the reservoir is down this low? Okay, so we could find ourselves if something big happens out of water. What do you think?
Well, it's not like it didn't happen before when all things were working perfect. We've had some mill fires that we drained the reservoir and had to get water from actually Waterford. We had to run hose lines across the bridge in some of
Yeah.
those major fires that we had. And I can attest to it because I was working at that time. We're pulling hand lines, 500, 600, 700, 800 foot trying to get water because our water was so low. But they also had people monitoring all those things. Let me just tell you something. When I took over the city, we had three broken pumps, almost $100,000 worth of broken pumps, and we were renting pumps. Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things I did when I came in is I did an assessment of all of our expenses versus our income. And I said, what is this thing to this company? We're paying $1,500 a week. Maybe it was a month. I think it was a week though. I really do think it was a week. And what it was we were paying for pumps. And I said, how long we been paying for pumps? And they said, oh, this one about a year and a half. So we paid more money, double the money to rent pumps than we did if we would have bought one. You know why? Because nobody paid attention.
Yeah.
So
and
I
I'm
put
being-
in,
right.
right.
Yeah,
So I
go
put
ahead.
together this complete program where Billy Kane, who was an awesome worker, he was in charge of the pumps. Once a week, they would go in, they would do a quick check on the pump, make sure if the pump house had to be cleaned out, it was cleaned out, and they would keep track of any problems with the pumps. It was just a well organized. I was told they got rid of that program that I put in, and Steve Hennessy knew about it for 6 months and did nothing about it.
Yeah.
And then
that's-
they go out
I'm
and rent
being
the
told
wrong size pump.
and I'm being told that he's been aware of this pump issue here and has ignored it. Okay. So so that's where we are right now, and it's just, he blows everything off. Okay. And that's what we're being told.
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot going on in the city of Cohoes, and it is not all well and good. I'm sure there's some good things going on. Again, I want to say to Brianna, Jean, Pierre, I respect your facility. I'll stop in and do some shopping around and see if there's anything that I'm interested in. I'm sorry, I disagree that they're not businesses that bring in a destination. Maybe in Hudson, like you just said, they could be. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, most people are coming from New York City going to Hudson. And, the city of Hudson isn't the richest, but all around is some of the richest people in the world live in Hudson and outside in the outskirts of Hudson. And I only know that because I worked down there for 30 years.
Yeah.
You had guys like professional base. They're $1 million houses all over the place. So it's a little bit different, but we appreciate that you're here at Cohoes. We hope you succeed. And if you have any ideas on how to make it better down there, call up Steve Napier, aka Fat Ass, and tell him to, do something to try to get this city.
Promote your business, okay? I mean, one of the biggest failures of the holiday huts things, okay, was that the people who rented those shacks, Sean, they said the city wasn't helping them with any marketing, okay, and that was
I
one.
wouldn't
They
call it
said,
marketing. I would say promoting,
yeah,
promoting their
promoting it.
own city.
Right. The city said, okay, here's the huts. We're renting it for you for $250 for the month. Okay, have fun, go at it. That's it. And then
And they didn't have.
didn't promote it whatsoever. How much promotion do you see for these shops? That are on Remsen Street right now
Well,
by
that's
the
the moral of
city.
my story for the last
Right.
hour. City ain't done shit, and that's
They're
why
not
they're all
promoting
closing
it.
up. Timmy, I
Yep.
walked by the shit shack on my way to the music hall.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped and talked to the guy. I go, "How you doing?" He goes, "I'm freezing my ass off." And I had one person stop by. He goes,
Yeah.
"I'm losing my shirt."
Right.
I
He
said,
was
"Geez, I'm
selling
sorry."
coffee mugs or
Yeah,
something
I
like
said, "I'm
there's
sorry." Yeah,
thermos bottles, I think he was selling, and he
yeah.
had to pay $250 for that shack.
Well, he said to me, I was sold the bill of goods that there'd be hundreds of people down in this city and they'd be
Yeah,
here, and he says,
nobody.
there ain't shit. I'm freezing my ass off and I'm ready to close up. He says, I'm going to be giving these things away by Sunday.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately.
So Brianna, look at I kind of agree with you in one respect. You got a city here that should be helping promote what's going on down there, and it's just not happening. Okay, and
Yeah.
but it's been this way for many many years. Okay, so whatever ideas that you can come on up. I suggested to Sean even last podcast. Why the hell can't we? I know that we have Santa Claus going around, but you got a stage and you got a Canal Square,
Yeah.
and why can't you have one day where Santa Claus goes to Canal Square and all of our kids can
They
go
probably
down
could
there?
if they didn't let the park get wrecked. The $3 million
Yeah,
park is wrecked.
yeah,
Hey, so
but
Tim, let me just end it with this, right? So I called Pete Frangi and
yep,
asked him if he'd come on next week because I want to talk to him about the fire site.
yep.
Because I adamantly disagree with the process that they're doing.
Hmm.
But maybe he can convince me otherwise. Maybe he's got a better plan
Yeah.
in his mind than I do. But so he's going to come on, and they posted something on Facebook, and I gotta tell you, I have to laugh because I listen to all these people. No more pilot programs, no more tax incentives. Do you know that pilot programs are the third in line of revenue that we have in the city? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Most people don't know what they mean. Most people don't know what they are. Most people who are saying don't have a pilot program certainly don't know shit about development, because if you think you can get one of the prime developers to come into this city, okay,
Hmm.
where market rate is about 1,800 versus 23, 24 over at Saratoga, Colony, and those places, right? Far
Yeah.
less risk, a lot more money and wealth. If you think they're just going to walk in this city and take a gamble on $17
Yeah.
million buildings, you're out of your mind. And that's why the city's never prospered, because if you have that mindset, then the
Yeah.
city will never grow. In fact, the city's dying right now. And that's the whole point of asking Pete Frangi to come on, because I don't
Yeah.
understand why they're holding up this, the Bonaquisti brothers. Al
Yeah.
Robin said, Sean, I think Fane bought
Fane
Norlight.
bought Norlight, and they're working there. I don't know.
No, I don't even know who Fane is, unless that's
Well,
the.
Fane is, they deliver, topsoil, dirt, shale, all that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'll have to look into that. I
Yeah.
certainly know that they're not employing 60 people making 80,000. I certainly know they're probably not using the enormous amount of water that that Norlight was using.
they're doing a
And-
lot of trucking,
and
so
somebody
yeah.
may have moved into the land, but they are not going to compete with a Norlight, which was our biggest employer, I
Yeah.
think.
yeah,
Soil, topsoil. Danny, do you know if they're actually there? Al said they're there. I think it's great if they are, but again, you got to remember something. Norlight is mostly Colony.
yeah. So we got Dan Herkel says Warren Fane, stone, topsoil, shale.
Yeah,
Just
which is
what
good. I'm glad
yeah,
to see it's not vacant. But you got to
Yeah.
again, the majority of Norlight is in Colony.
So are
The
they
part
running
of Norlight
right?
that the part
Yeah.
of Norlight that was in Cohoes is where all the water was being used.
Right.
Okay,
So
the
are they
city-
running the furnaces though?
Well, they're not going to. I doubt very much that they're running
Well-
the kilns,
Well,
which means
I mean,
they're
the
not
whole
running
thing
the
was
water.
right. So I mean, how does Fane not create dust
Thanks,
moving
Danny.
dirt?
Well, I think it's great that somebody's there. It's a big
Yeah, I
piece of
think so
land.
too.
They probably can, have piles and have
Yeah,
different places to put their product, and they have the buildings, and they probably can do their sales right out of there. I'm just saying they're not going to carry the weight of Norlight because again, Norlight spent most of the Cohoes part of Norlight is where
yeah,
all of their water was being used.
yeah,
So Norlight, even if somebody moves in there, Cohoes is going to see a huge decline in property tax, probably, right? Because the
hmm,
value of Frayne can't be as much as Norlight, or I could stand corrected on that. I'm not
yeah.
sure. But secondly, they're not going to use as much water, which means the city's going to be losing the water, and they're going to have to pay, somehow for more water and more money into that fund. So
So
who
before
the
I
hell
let
knows?
you right, so before I let you go, okay, my question is this for you, okay? We're seeing an increase in our sewer rents, right? That's what you said, right?
Yes.
Well, how I've been thinking about this, and I'm saying to myself, if we keep going around separating in a city all the sewer and storm drains, and we're separating them, okay, so that only stormwater ends up going to the river and not down to Albany, okay, wouldn't we be saving money because we're sending less sewage down to Albany, okay?
Well, so there used to be a
So
county
why would you
program.
need a why would you need to raise or increase the sewer rate if we're not sending as much stuff down to Albany?
There was a consortium of
Hmm.
communities within Albany County
Yeah,
that where big projects were being done to do the water sewer
yeah,
separation because it's not
yeah,
just Cohoes, it was everywhere.
yeah,
So let's just say there was a $30 million program in Albany City. Cohoes had to contribute money towards that program.
yeah.
Everybody was contributing money into the pool based on
Right.
usage, population, and whatever else they
Yeah.
use to determine.
And then
So,
right, and I remember when it came to our time, our
right, we got like
turn,
they gave us like 4
they
million
gave us
dollars
money
worth.
to separate
Right,
certain sections within the
right.
city.
So the city at one time, I think when I was in office, we owed them like we were into them for like $250,000 or something.
Yeah.
So the city's probably saying, "Hey, how do we raise revenue to keep up with the money that we need for these programs?" And so they're raising the sewer rates of your
Maybe.
water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I think that's probably what it is. I believe that they're just trying to make
maybe I'll
sure.
see if we can't get Higgins or Biggs on to
Yeah, I'd
explain it.
love to hear it. I'd love to see, but I would believe it's probably so that they can continue to be part of the storm sewer
Yeah,
separation program.
maybe.
But hey, Timmy, it's good to see you. I'm glad you had a nice Thanksgiving, and we're going to change our name because Frank and Stein said we're Heckle and Jekyll, Pete and
Yeah.
Repeat. So I think
Yeah.
we should name our new show the Heckle and Jekyll, Pete and Repeat.
Well,
Just
what
so
I would say to Frank, it says, Frank, you try doing this once a week and try to put together a show.
Frank's
And
an
you got all the
asshole. Don't even worry
you,
about him.
you got a bunch of whistleblowers that always call. You got people sending you emails, messages,
Don't
and
worry
stuff
about
like that.
Frank
Do
and
what we do,
Stein.
Frank. Okay.
Frankenstein, Pete and Repeat are saying it's nice to have a great audience. Growth is amazing. Glad everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Hope everybody's well.
Yep.
Look forward to talking to you on Wednesday on our next show. So, hey,
Adios.
from Heckle and Jekyll,
Yep.
we're Peting and repeating out of here.
Adios.